All right, so hello everyone and welcome. My name is Michelle Smith. I'm the membership manager here at Pro Literacy. Today's Learn and Share webinar is entitled News for You Online, the Inside Scoop. We hope this webinar helps you make the most of this valuable member benefit. If you have any questions about your News for You Online subscription as it relates to membership, please feel free to reach out to me after the webinar via email. My email address is msmith@proliteracy.org. I'll now hand the floor to our presenter, Pro Literacy Educational Sales Consultant, Training Coordinator, and News for You Online expert, Greg Stoltz. Greg, take it away.
Thank you, Michelle, and hi everyone. Greg Stoltz here, and I'm so glad for this opportunity to help you get acquainted with one of my favorite online resources, News for You Online. Over the next 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how fast I talk and how many questions you have, I'm going to walk you through its many outstanding features. And if I do my job well, by the time we're done, you'll have picked up some great ideas to use with your learners that will engage, motivate, and empower them as they strive to improve their lives through literacy. So are you ready? All right, let's get started. Now, for those of you who haven't done this yet, here's how you get there. You would go to either newsforyouonline.com, as you see, or you can also go to newreaderspress.com that you see up here at the top. All right, and this is what you're going to get. Now, once you're on, you will enter your password, and here's where it can get a little bit tricky because most people will look at the top and they'll see login and they'll want to press that. But this login at the very, very top is actually for New Readers Press. Now, there's no need to worry about unintentional or unauthorized orders or anything along those lines, as New Readers Press accounts have separate passwords. The only thing that will happen is you won't be able to do it. It'll say, "Oh, you're not in. We don't recognize this." So before we do it the right way, let me just take a quick second to actually pitch the New Readers Press website, because it's a great way to view New Readers Press products. You'll find product descriptions, sample pages, pricing, lots of free resources and correlations, news, upcoming events, just a plethora of different things on the New Readers Press site. So I encourage you to check that out when you have time. But now, let's go back to the News for You Online. Now, you see here as you look down across from News for You, follow my finger, enter News for You password, and this is actually where you're going to do your login. So I'm going to quickly do that. And I'll use my password. Okay, and click sign in. And once you've done this, it's going to tell you your subscription has, and then X amount of months or days remaining. Mine happens to have 2 months and 15 days before it expires, and I have to renew it. So, as we look at the actual page, you'll see here that News for You Online is visually compelling, but it's not so busy as to turn readers off. Each week there are 7 new stories that cover topics like, well, world, sports, science, nature, world, animals, and in addition, you'll find from week to week other topics like history, science, the environment, human interest in animal stories, the arts. We do a great job of getting lots of high interest stories up there for our readers. Now, these articles are from the Washington Post and Associated Press, and they're carefully rewritten with permission. 4 of the stories at reading levels 4 to 6, or in ESL speak, it's a low intermediate level, and the other 3 at levels 3 to 4, a high beginning reading level. And if you're interested, we use the Flesch-Kincaid grading system to determine what the reading level is for each story. New stories and exercises are posted every Wednesday at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So actually these stories just went up about, 15, 16 hours ago. and that's with the exception of Thanksgiving week and the weeks before, of, and after Christmas, as so many of our users are off during those weeks. So we take that time off. So 48 weeks out of the year, you'll find brand new stories. But the site is up and running 52 weeks out of the year. Okay. So we would go to a story by clicking on either the photo that you see here, or the headline, or just below that where it says read and listen to the full story. Any one of those clicks will take us to the same place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And here we have Turkey's president will have more power. Okay. And what's the first thing you see? I mean, my eyes go right to the photo, and I think that's a great place to start for today's webinar, and with your learners for that matter. A picture paints 1,000 words, they say. Well, it also provides numerous activities for ESL and ABE students alike. From easy to more challenging, you can do things like talk about body language, facial expressions, although the Turkey president isn't giving much along the lines of facial expressions for us, and emotions. Talk about those things. You can use the 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why, to generate discussion about the photo. You could make predictions about the story. Or even have your learners write a headline or a caption based solely on the photo. So lots of different ideas you can do just by looking at this one image. Now, when a story has more than one image, you click on the side arrows to view them, and this one, fortunately, happens to have more than one image. So let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. And look at that. Oh, I love this. I love this. Images aren't always just photos. Some stories, like this one, may include a map. Others a diagram, a graph, or a chart, and we'll actually talk a little bit more about that later on. But I think this is just fabulous. This is great. Ankara, Turkey. That's the capital. Wow. Okay. Quick confession. I thought it was still Istanbul. All right. So much for me in social studies. Now, sometimes an article will feature a short video to help with things like comprehension, or maybe to help readers learn more about the topic, or perhaps to spark conversation, or even compel the reader to explore a topic further on her or his own. Gee, that'd be horrible, wouldn't it? Inciting independent reading? Monstrous thought. Okay. So I'm actually going to show you an example later on in today's broadcast of a cool video, and although we won't watch it, I can't wait to point it out to you. Okay, so enough about the images. Let's now scroll down just a tad to the audio icon that you see here. Okay. First, let me say that I think being able to listen to the story is a big deal. It opens the door to learners who, without the audio, would be left out. And it can be used in a variety of different ways and at all different levels. For example, learners can click on Hear the Whole Story, as you see here, and they can follow along as they listen to improve their reading fluency. Just listening along and following as it's read. I'm not going to do that because it's going to read the whole story, and I don't want to do that. They can also just listen and use it as a listening comprehension activity, or maybe even as note-taking practice for your higher level learners. So lots of ways to use that by just clicking Hear the Whole Story. Or the learners can break it down by sentence or caption and just mimic the recorded reader to work on things like phonics, just identifying the different sounds that the letters can make, the vowels and consonants, the blends, the digraphs, the trigraphs, and other letter combos. You could have them work on practicing difficult sounds or names. Holy cow, look at this one. We'll get to that one in a second. I'm not even going to attempt it. My mom is Japanese, My wife is Japanese. I taught English in Japan for 8 years. For them, pronouncing V, as in violin, R, or TH is a challenge because they don't exist in the Japanese language. And distinguishing between some sounds, like B as in boy, V as in Victor, L and R can also be very, very difficult. So this is a great opportunity to improve their listening skills and also their pronunciation skills. Also, there's prosody. The patterns, rhythm, and intonation of the language, which can be so very important. So the audio feature is outstanding. And it lets learners practice English with someone other than their teacher, which is vital as well. Because, teachers who are listening in with me, that they so quickly get used to you. Your facial expressions, your gestures, the nonverbal hints that you give them, and your slower pace. And that can be a crutch, and not in a good way at some point. So it's nice that they have a different voice or voices to listen to. These stories alternate between a female and a male reader, and they're real voices. They're not computer generated. It also strengthens their listening skills, as they can't rely on those visual signals like facial expressions and body language that I mentioned. So, lastly, since the learners can access News for You online on their smartphones and tablets, they can practice outside the classroom or lesson. They just listen and repeat, listen and repeat. And let me actually share with you what this sounds like. And let's tackle this wonderful name here. Listen up.
Now, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has reached that goal.
Okay, who?
Now, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has reached that goal.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan. You couldn't have offered me $1 million to do that right without listening to it first. But there it is. Great pronunciation practice, right? So that's listening. Now let's move on and finally start to read. For the reading, first, let me point out that you can change the article's text size by clicking on the plus or minus signs at the top of each story that you see here. Change text size. There are actually 3 sizes. And watch what happens to the text here as I press on the plus button. Boink. Boink. Okay, I'm making the boink sound. The mouse isn't. But as you can see, so this is great, for those who are challenged, sight-wise, like me. I'm wearing my trifocals right now. It's great to be able to see it in larger print, and those who aren't used to reading. So this is pretty cool that you can go from this text size up into a larger size. I'm going to go back down just for convenience sake. Okay. Key vocabulary is defined where it appears in the story, and it's highlighted in blue to stand out, as you see here. Words like parliamentary, carry out, and as you mouse over the word, the definition pops up, just like that. Allies is a noun, countries that support each other in a war. Okay. Just like that. Now, you can also see that there's a complete list of the week's vocabulary words, and that is found on the right side of the page with the same roll over the definition feature. So we'll go and look at parliamentary. Boom. Pops right up. Boom. Okay. After reading an article, there's still plenty to do. We're just getting warmed up here. At the bottom of each article, let me scroll down, you'll see a few things. One, from the archive, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, and it'll give you additional articles to read that are associated. But also, readers can leave comments. Leave a comment. Now, there are none here yet because, as I stated, this just changed over several hours ago. But you'll see that throughout the week, more and more people respond, and they'll post their own comments. Great feature that allows them to express their opinions on topics and they can also practice using the keyboard and hone their writing skills. So this is a great feature to have, the leave your comment thing. I'm going to leave a comment here. Greg says, that president needs an easier name. He probably won't listen to me, but hey. And here it is. Immediately my comment is up there. Greg says that president needs an easier name. All right. So much for that. Now watch our staff will take this down as quickly as I put it up and say, wow, we don't like that. Now, actually, that brings up a good point. Every once in a blue moon, you'll have some wisecracker that feels it's necessary to post something that's mildly or grossly inappropriate. The good news is things like that come down as quickly as they go up. We police this all day and all night, so those comments don't stay up. And for the most part, learners are just they just feel privileged to be able to post their comments. So we rarely get anybody who abuses it. But when it does happen, it doesn't last long. So that's a good thing. Okay, let me move on. Let's see. What else can we talk about? Oh, correcting readers' comments. Now, I made sure that I didn't make any grammatical or spelling errors here, but from time to time, in fact, quite often, you'll see that there are misspelled words or incorrect grammar. That's because we don't correct the stuff that goes up. We let readers post their comments, and unless they're inappropriate, we leave them up there. So it's another free exercise for you, the instructors, to get your students to do, and let's respond to this reader's comment, or let's correct the spelling errors or the grammar. So another freebie there. Now for more follow-up activities, we can go back up to the top of the story, and we'll find right here article exercises. At the top right of each story, all of the exercises are interactive and they give learners immediate feedback. Sometimes they're true-false, sometimes they're multiple choice questions, but other times learners have to do things like fill in the blanks or unscramble a sentence by clicking and dragging the words to the appropriate box. Let's see what today is for Turkey's president article. Click on article exercises and it brings up multiple choice. What is the name of Turkey's new political system? Gee, I remember seeing the word parliamentary, so I'm going to click that, and you get immediate feedback. Mine is a red X. That is not the correct answer. Please try again. Well, I don't want to guess. I want to find that information, but how can I do it? Return to article. And as we press this, it's going to open up in a new tab, take us back to the article. So now you can toggle back and forth between the article and the exercise, and you can scan the article, you can read, search for information, and that's a really cool feature to have as well. And here we're going to go back to the article again, and we're going to go between article and exercise. Okay, back to the article. So another great feature about the News for You Online is the weekly poll. The weekly poll you'll see right next to the story, and it's great because, well, one, it's another opportunity for students to express their opinions. Would you choose to donate your organs after death? Why, is Turkey's president going to donate his organs after death? No. Actually, the weekly poll is always on a topic related to one of the two first articles. This one is on the second article. And actually, let's go back to that by pressing home. The second article is Transplant Connects True Pro Athletes. Rod Carew got a heart and kidney from Conrad Rowland. So that's what this question, the weekly poll is from. It's actually from the second story. So, would you choose to donate your organs after death? Gee, there was a time when I would have said yes right away. Now I'm going between not sure and no. Okay, let's be stingy and say no. And I'm going to cast my vote. And here it is. And oh good, we've had some people already log in and try it out today. 11 people said yes, 2 said no, and we have 1 who is not sure. You can also go back and look at the previous week's poll results for those who go from week to week and want to see how things ended up at the end of the week. Now this is also pretty cool because not only do you get to express your opinion and and vote and then see how others voted, but what else you can do is well, you could get advanced students to go a step or 2 farther by giving a written response to the question. It could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph, it could be an essay, depending on their level. And they can write the response on paper, or you could even have them post the response in that reader's comments box. The poll is also a great opportunity to introduce math and graphic literacy. For example, you could teach students the formula for figuring percentages and then use the poll numbers to practice it. Now we could do this with last week's poll results because we're going to have more. Here we go. Last week's question was how many senators should be required to agree to confirm a new judge for the U.S. Supreme Court? All right, let's see. 30 and 33 is 63, 66, 76. Out of 76 people, 30 of them said at least 51 out of 100 should be required. So now let's use a formula and we'll find out what is 30 out of 76 as far as a percentage goes, right? You can also then have them present the data using a different kind of a graph. So here we have this horizontal bar graph, but maybe get the students to to reproduce this, but in a vertical bar graph, or show me in a pie graph, or if you have artists, even in a pictograph, as raised hands or as little people or something like that. So lots of different ways that you can use the weekly poll to keep your learners engaged and even introduce math and graphic literacy. Okay, moving on. Below the weekly poll, you're going to see 2 awesome interactive puzzles. First is the crossword puzzle, and let me click on that. And there it is. Now, I like crossword puzzles. I don't like hard ones, but I like crossword puzzles. Why? Because they're brain teasers. They make students think and have fun while they're doing it. They work on things, obviously, like spelling, but you know what? They also expose students to things like, well, here, see, press close with it, so identify a new vocabulary. You'll get things like idioms, main for short. So you'll get geography, you'll get abbreviations, you'll get synonyms, grammar, all kinds of things just out of this crossword puzzle. So it's a lot more than just a fun activity. You're building skills here. Now let's see how this actually works. Let's try to answer number 22 across, the wagging part of a dog. Well, anybody knows that the wagging part of a dog is a tail. So I'll just put my answer in there, but just to be sure, I'm going to check. So I'll click the check button that you see here, and uh-oh, I thought I knew the answer. Oh, wait a minute, tail. Did I misspell that? Let me try again. Let's try it this way. I'm going to check my answer again, and now I got it right. See, Michelle Smith, who's sitting across from me, was actually mouthing to me, T-A-L-E, and that's why I made the mistake. And she can't do anything to fight back because I've got the controller. So, all right, so that's how this works. Now let's try another one. 34 across, went very fast. Went very fast. I don't know, my youth? I have no idea. So I'm clueless. I need a hint, and I'm going to click this hint button right here, because there's nothing around it to help me. And when you click the hint button, it actually gives you one letter. So it went very fast, and I still have no idea. Michelle? Sped. Sister, you may just be right. Check the she's a genius. And there you go. So this is pretty cool. And it also enables even learners who might be challenged by it to get hints, check their answers, not have to erase halfway through the puzzle, and they can actually do it. So and what happens at the end when they complete it, it will say congratulations across the screen. And you know what? For me, completing a crossword is like looking at my freshly mowed lawn. Seriously, it gives me a sense of accomplishment, and I think students feel the same way. For some students, it could be the first crossword they've ever conquered, and that is a big deal. So crossword, 2 thumbs up. Okay, let's pull off the crossword, and let me show you the other one just below it, and that's the word search puzzle. Now, as you can see, the words are listed here on the right. These are the words that they're searching for. Arguably, some people will say, well, a word search is a lot of fun, but does it really have any educational value? I'm going to say yes, and here's why. Because with the word search, well, one thing that you may not know is that these words on the side here, they're all words from the current week's vocabulary list. So they're not just abstract, just words pulled out of a hat. They're all words that they've seen in the vocabulary list. So here are a few ideas on how you might use this for educational purposes. First, if you're using it in a classroom setting, and maybe you have a smart board, an interactive smart board up, have students form teams. And the teams could take turns finding the words from the list. And here's how you do it. You look for a word on the list. Let's say I'm looking for the word parliamentary, okay, that you see here, parliamentary. Let's look for it, and I think I found it. So I'm going to click, left click, and I'm going to drag the mouse over until the end and then unclick. And there I've got parliamentary. And that's how you circle a word. Now to check to see if that's correct, there are 2 ways to do it. One, you can push the check button, which I just did, and if it doesn't disappear, it means it's a real word. The second way is that you'll see that the word goes to a soft gray. Barely perceptible, but this is a softer gray, so we know, okay, this is a valid word. Unlike the word diuvacinesty, because when I press check on that, it disappears. And either it's not a word that's here in the column to the side, or it's just not a word at all. But who knows? In Swahili, it might be. All right, moving on. So another way to use the word search is for beginning readers, because for them, it's a great way to work on letters, consonants, vowels, blends, just giving them an opportunity to search for words and patterns, improving their sight word recognition, different things like that. So you might not want to do this with your class time, but it's certainly something to encourage them to do on their own free time, right? And again, upon successfully completing the puzzle, it'll say congratulations across the puzzle. And again, sense of accomplishment, I did it, I'm incredible. Back to News for You Online. The next thing I want to show you is the Story Archive. News for You Online is a very good source for current events, and the 7 weekly stories usually satisfy teachers and students, but I know I'm not the only teacher with a collection of past articles, short stories, quizzes, and other useful handouts and worksheets that fill maybe a bag, or maybe they fill a briefcase, maybe a file cabinet, or for some of you hoarders, even a spare room, right? We all like to have go-to resources at our fingertips, is my point. Or how about coming up with an interesting reading and discussion topic for that hard-to-please learner? They just, I don't want to read this, I don't want to read that. You'll find something in the archives, I assure you. Here's where the Story Archive is just an absolute treasure trove. Now, in addition to just the article in the archive also has full story audio, and that goes all the way back to 2009. So any story in the archive that you find going back to 2009, they can listen to as well. They can listen to the full story. Back to June of 2015, they can listen to not only the full story, but they can listen to the article sentence by sentence, or they can listen to the captions. They can also see photos and graphics. And again, that's all the way back to June 2015. And to September of 2015, we managed to save all of the online exercises. Talk about never running out of stuff. You know, the archive is just chock full of great exercises, activities, stories for your students to read and listen to. Now, there are two ways to explore the Story Archive. The first, and probably the one you'll use most often, is the search box. And you'll see that at the top of the page where it says search our catalog and articles. Or if you go into the archives like this, then you'll see search the News for You archive. And let's do it this way. You just type in a word or phrase, and then the articles containing the word or phrase will come up in a list. So first, let me type in, okay, I'm going to type in North Korea. Where did that go? Hey, try this again. North Korea. I used both my index fingers to do that. My wife would be proud because I usually just use one. Okay, so North Korea, and then I'm going to press search. Let's see what comes up. Wow, are you kidding me? 392 results. I don't know, I find it hard to believe that there are actually that many articles in the archive that mention North Korea. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and I'm going to put North Korea in quotes and see if that changes anything. And I'm going to click search again. Ding! Did you see that change? From 392, it went down to 22, and here's why. If you have multiple words or a phrase and you put it in the search box and click search, it's going to search for any word in that phrase that you put in there, or the multiple words. So there were 392 results for North or Korea. But when I put it in quotes, North Korea, now it gives me an accurate indication of how many articles there actually are. There are 22, which is still quite a few. All right, so there's a useful tip. Remember to use quotes for the multiple words and phrases. Now let's take a look at some of the headlines that come up here. You got, let's see, U.S. move to drop North Korea from terrorism list angers Japan. I could see why. North Korea tries to limit news from the outside world. Again, I could see why. At the World Cup, who is cheering for North Koreans? I don't know, North Koreans? So article after article, but here's how you can use this. You could have students search for specific facts. You could simply use this to have the students choose a story or stories that they're interested in to read. You know, based on these titles, what do you guys think? What do you want to read? Right? Or just encourage them to read one. Maybe even use this list to have them create a timeline. You know, find out by clicking on these articles which article was posted first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or you know, time-wise, which event happened first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Lots of different ways to use just this search feature. Now, you can also find stories by date, and you do that by going to the archives, and then you see here as I scroll down the date. So you have the issue date, and then next to it the 7 articles from that from that week's issue. Okay. All right. One more feature, and then we'll pull this all together, and that is right here for teachers. I'm going to click on it. When you click on the For Teachers page, you'll find that there's a small library of activities that you can use with your students. You know, individually or in a classroom setting, small groups. These activities, or tips as they're called here, are arranged by category over in the left-hand margin. So we have comprehension activities, expressing opinions, grammar, listening. And this is super for teachers because you quickly at your fingertips, gee, I'm looking for something that will work on pronunciation. So let's click on that and see what happens. And it's going to pull up different activities for pronunciation. Let's see, we could do a sound search or a blending together, right? And there it'll take and show you the activity and how to use it. So lots of cool ideas here, and it keeps growing because we keep adding to it. All right. Now, also on the For Teachers page, you will see that there is the Teacher's Guide. This is a replica of the print version. And here it is, this week's Teacher's Guide. I'm going to pull this up. It's a downloadable PDF, so you can actually photocopy this, and you'll see why in just a moment. All right, here is the Teacher's Guide for this week. As you see here, there's an answer key for the different exercises that the Teacher's Guide offers. There's also suggested reading levels for each story, and that's important because we don't put these on the paper itself because, frankly, it can demotivate a student. Gee, I'm only reading at a 3rd, 4th grade level. They don't need to see that. What they need to see is real news, which is what they're reading, and they're doing great. So, but for you, the instructor, here it is. Transplant connects 2 pro athletes. That's written at a 3rd, 4th grade reading level. If you want them to be more challenged, then read about how experts use spinach to host beating human heart cells. Okay, that's kind of disgusting. But it's written at a 4th to 6th grade level, so let's try that one. So it's right there for you in the answer key. What else are we going to find here in the Teacher's Guide? How about a full lesson plan for one of the first 2 stories every week? And it references a Common Core or Career and College Readiness Anchor Standard. This week it works on Reading 3. Analyze how and why individuals, events, or ideas develop and interact over the course of a text. So great, if you're looking to justify using the News for You, you don't have to look very far, because here we got Career and College Readiness Anchor Standards and a lesson plan for one of the first 2 front page stories. Pretty cool stuff. More than that, as you scroll down, you'll see that every other exercise, so all 7 articles every week, they also have exercises. And a discussion question to boot. Okay. And although it doesn't show it this week, we often will have great graphic organizers in the Teacher's Guide to help students organize their thoughts and their writing. So that is the News for You Teacher's Guide. You know, another cool thing about that discussion question at the end of each story is that you could easily flip this for your higher level learners, turn it into a writing activity and have them write about it instead of discuss it in class. So just an endless number of things that you can do, and that's the Teacher's Guide. All right. So let me now pull this all together and quickly walk you through a lesson that's going to use many of the features and ideas that I introduced today. I'm going to use an amazing story about some school kids in China. Now, I don't remember the exact issue date and I don't remember the headline, so I'm just going to use the search box, right? I can do it up here or I can do it in the archives. I'll do it in the archives just to keep it clear. And I'm going to type in the word cliff because that's what I remember about this article. Search, and let's see. Oh, cool. 17 results for Cliff, and it happens to be the very first one on the page. Kids have a long climb to get home. So I'm going to click on it. And July 13th, 2016, kids have a long climb to get home. Are you ready for this? Oh my goodness. I love this. And we got the arrows here, which tells us, that's right, tells us that there's more than one visual. So we'll click and see what that second one is. Look at that! Okay, so here's what I would do with this story. First, I'm going to have my students look at the two photos. Why? Because it's the first thing that grabs us, right? Let's look at the photos, and what do we do with it? How about answer some typical 5Ws questions? Maybe do some predictions. Who are these people? What do you think they're doing? What nationality do you think they are? Where do you think they live? How old do you think they are? Where do you think they're going? How often do you think they do this? How high up do you think they are? How long do you think it takes them to make this climb? Okay, yeah, I'd still be at the bottom. Me and heights, we're not the best combination. Okay, why do you think they do this? So all kinds of stuff that you can generate just from the pictures. We're just getting started. Next, I'll have them follow along as I read, or maybe as we listen to the story together, or even do it a sentence at a time, depending on their reading level. And at the very least, we're going to pause after each paragraph to answer or correct some of the 5Ws questions that I posed earlier. Okay? So here you got the story down here. And you know what? I want to blow it up a little bit, so I'll increase the text size. I'll do it again because I can. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, now with lower level readers, okay, I've got the bigger font, and I might use this story to focus on, how about the CH letter combination? In this short article, it's in the words China, Chinese, children, challenge, chili, okay, and that's at the front of the word. It's also in the words attached and rich. And it's even in the word school. So we got all that out of the CH, and I'm going to use that with my lower level learners. We're going to work on CH today. Okay. The word children in this article is used 5 times. So I can use it in a sight word exercise. Maybe I'll give students a set amount of time to see how many times they can find the word children in the story. Okay, so sight words. I could use the words China and Chinese, which are both in the story, as an opportunity to teach the names of countries and their respective adjectives, right? And typical patterns like Japan, Japanese, Portugal, Portuguese, Vietnam, Vietnamese, right? Or what else? Italy, Italian, Iran, Iranian, Lithuania, Lithuanian. Or how about this? Spain, Spanish, Finland, Finnish, Mars, Martian. Okay, I don't know that they're actually Martians, but I decided to use it. So that can lend itself to drills or pair work. Still going here. We made it through the story. Let's say that we've gone all the way down through the story. We've addressed vocabulary. We've done all sorts of cool things here. Oh, cool. Look at that. Got some comments here that we can work with. So at the bottom, all right, I can encourage them to post comments. We could post a comment together if it's classroom setting, or maybe we can correct some of the previous comments that may have grammar or spelling areas. Because, nothing wrong with that. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's Tanisha. Look at Tanisha says, I will stay home because it's not worth it to die just to go to school. All right. And then she said, I meant because. Okay, so cool. She corrected her own mistake. Ebby says, wow. Well, Ebby, let's make that W a capital W. So we can go through that. All right. All this from one article, and there's still the teacher's guide exercise and a discussion question for even more conversation practice, right? We can go up to the top and remember, oh yeah, there are the article exercises as well. So we'll click on article exercises, and we could do this together, or I could have them do it on their own. The children in the town of Atulare go to school in their village. Yes? No, that's not correct. They have to travel about a mile up. Okay? So you got all these cool exercises to go to as well. and you can go back and forth, toggling in between the two. All right, so many cool things. Oh, remember I said at the beginning that sometimes there's an associated video. This is one of those articles. You want to see an amazing short video? I think it's only like 5 or 6 minutes long. Chinese children climb the cliff. We're not going to watch it right now, but I encourage you to log on later and watch this thing because it is amazing. Man, I don't think I'd get out of the 3rd grade under these circumstances. There is no way. You know, it's just, you might as well hang glide for crying out loud. But this is just amazing. So a lot of cool stuff here. And, well, I'd say that I'm about out. Gentlemen, ladies, I hope this webinar has been an informative tour, provided you with some fresh ideas to use with your students. Let's wrap things up today by seeing if there are any questions. Have there been any questions submitted?
Yes, we have 3.
Okay, well, I'm all for them. Right here.
So Ariane Robinson asked, fantastic presentation, Greg, by the way, and this is Jameson Crawford, Project Manager, Pro Literacy. Ariane Robinson asked, can you combine the date filter function with the archive's keyword search to find specific articles from a past time period?
Oh, that's a really good idea, and I'm glad I thought of it. But sadly, no, at this point. But that is something that I will present to our team, and if it's something that is in our power, that you might see that happen in the future. But at this point, no, although that is a wonderful idea, you're not able to do it that way.
Okay. The next question is from Christy Subic, or Subic, I apologize. If the organization has access to News4U, but you are, say, a staff or a volunteer, what is the best way that you would recommend to go about getting the password and login information?
Okay, great question. If your organization has the News4U online subscription, then check with an administrator there, and she or he will gladly give it to you because it is for everyone in your organization. At your site, you can get your administrators, your clerical staff, your teachers, tutors, you can get your custodians, for crying out loud. All of your students, we want people to use it. So you simply ask them, what is the password? And, and they should be able to give it to you. One idea might be for you to actually post it in the community area and say, this is the password for News4U online, and make sure that your learners know. You might want to make a tent card and put it on your computer labs, next to the stations, and say, here's the News4U online password. Now, here's a quick note though. You noticed that I logged in earlier, but if I don't log out, it says click here to sign out. You don't have to sign out. There's nothing protected here that you need to protect. So if you don't click sign out, then the next person to open this up on the same computer is going to have access right away. So the best practice is there at your site, just don't log out, and you don't have to worry about it. But for users who are going to be logging in and out at the public library, or on different technology, pieces of technology, whether it's a laptop or wherever or whatever, a tablet, even an iPhone. I can get onto it on my iPhone. Then that's all you need is that password.
Great. Actually, so a related question is, how can my students use this along with me? So students can have access to this as well?
It's for your students. So yes, definitely. This is a great way to promote distance learning, independent learning. Some of your students are going to be, especially if they're Asian, Chinese, the Japanese, and I speak from experience, they may do really well with grammar and ace the tests, but trying to get them to speak, they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be shamed. So, trying to get them to speak is like pulling teeth, wisdom teeth. From a walrus, Do walruses have wisdom teeth?
I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure either. We'll Google it
Good
later.
discussion for the class.
Yeah, so anyway, but yes, you want to give them the password. So you can do this together. You're right, they are tusks.
Yeah.
Wisdom tusks?
Wisdom test.
We're getting off the point.
Is there any other kind?
So, you can use this together on an interactive smartboard, a whiteboard in the classroom. You can have them doing it from their stations in a computer lab. But get them on their cell phones. Get them on, on their tablets. Get them doing it at home, in the public library, because they can.
Great.
Any other questions?
Well, that was I just want to say that was a great question from Victoria Ford. Thank you, Victoria, for that
Thanks,
one.
Victoria.
And actually another question from Ariane Robinson. And so this is for News for You articles and whether or not the articles provide you a link to the original article that it might have been based on.
Very interesting.
And also whether or not, say there's a subscription for those websites, are you able to access those through News for You, or do you need to get your subscription?
Okay. Well, that was 2 questions, so that's not really fair, but I'll answer them both.
Okay.
First off, no, we do not provide a link to the actual article that was written, by the Washington Post Associated Press. We do, however, often at the bottom of each article have something. Slow that roll. China uses tech to guard toilet paper. I've got to read this one. But you'll find that at the bottom, often it will say, here are previous articles that may be related. And in fact, although there is not one here, now I'm remembering that wasn't there one associated with this Turkey's president? Yes, from the archives. Turkey, once a model nation, cracks down after coup attempt, and that an article from August 10th last year. So no, it will not give you links to the actual original article. Yes, it will take you to other related stories from our archives. Is there a way through News for You online to get a subscription to other newspapers? Sadly, there is not. Does that answer those questions?
The only thing I would add is you could possibly do a Google search, on Associated Press and a similar title to see if you can find the article on your own. And it may or may not be available depending on whether the publication restricted that article. But that's another option if you really want to compare and contrast it to the original.
Great idea. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
Anything else?
Actually, yes. So there is another question from Ariane regarding she's on fire regarding PDFs and maybe going over the possibility of downloading or printing out one of these articles as a class set, and whether that's possible.
Yeah, you'll find that you may have some trouble printing these off and making photocopies of them. Sometimes they work if they're short enough, but otherwise the entire thing won't print or parts of it won't print. Best practice is to try and use them in the classroom. I can't answer that for certain because I've experienced both, Ariane. Sometimes, yes, the article will print, sometimes they don't. But as a general rule of thumb, please try to remember that there are photocopy, the copyright laws and regulations to follow. So, as a general rule of thumb, we try and dissuade people from copying off lots of copies of things.
Okay, great. We just got another question in from Aaron Beard. Aaron asks, is it possible to have multiple people logged onto this at the same time?
Oh, yes.
Using it in a lab format?
Yes. Yeah, and all using the same password. Yeah, you can get people on multiple devices using the same password all at the same time. That's not a problem. So that's a great question.
Okay, very good. That's about it. Any other questions I can definitely answers through text, and so if anyone else is waiting around for those, I'll stick around right afterwards and see what I can do.
Great, thank you, sir. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. On behalf of Pro Literacy and New Readers Press, thank you for partnering with us as Pro Literacy members. Keep doing what you're doing, and know that we appreciate your dedication to helping adults, young, old, and everywhere in between, learn to read. Have a great rest of the day. Bless you. Greg Stoltz, signing off.